Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Freeing Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Dukeman. This week, I'm going to be rolling solo, and I wanted to dive right in and talk about life changes. So, there is a lot of life changes going on right now for a lot of people in their lives, and I am no exception to that. I am, if you've been watching the podcast, you know that I've been talking about things for a long time. Last week, Brittany and I definitely hit on the subject. And because of those life changes, that changes how possibly the format of this podcast will be moving forward. I started this podcast back in February with the intention to help as many people as possible with their mental health because I've gone through those struggles. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. Now, as I've continued to grow and evolve in this process, of myself healing from PTSD and anxiety, depression, and all the other things associated with that we've talked about week after week with not only myself, but with many other guests that I'm extremely grateful for coming on this podcast. I have evolved to a point where I'm very quickly looking at changing career paths. And it's something that's already in the works and it's going to happen. And if you listen to last week's podcast, you already know. There's your hand. So I'm changing the way that I do things. And I also want to continue to help as many people as possible. So moving forward, what I would like to do is solicit the audience for help. And I know that sometimes it's hard for people to want to comment directly in the show notes or, on the podcast directly. But what I would like to do is give you all the opportunity to reach out to me either in email or Instagram or Facebook. Just message me. It's anonymous. And let me know what you think about the podcast. What you like, what you don't like, what you'd maybe like to see. Has the podcast helped you? Has it helped a loved one? Why is it that you continue to tune in? And moving forward, what I would like to do is be able to better curtail the podcast to my audience because I'm here to best help as many people as possible. So I would love that feedback. And with that feedback, we'll make adjustments accordingly. While I do have some people that we've just had some scheduling conflicts, and some of it is due to my own schedule being just too filled up right now to get people scheduled in that works for them to be on this podcast. We can certainly continue to have guests. I love having guests and interviewing people and allowing people to share their story because my story isn't going to resonate with everyone. But the more stories that we have out here being shared, the more people that message may resonate with. So I definitely like to continue that. But again, it's really up to the audience what you guys would like to see. So in the show notes and a post on Instagram and Facebook, we'll be talking about this. And please, please, please leave your feedback. If you're comfortable doing it in the comments, do so. If not, message me directly, and I'd love to see those comments and go from there. Also, if you feel like you have a story that you're willing to share, I would love to have you on. The biggest part of this is, of course, that we talk about how we've healed and recovered, and not so much talking about how we're suffering, because we all go through those phases of suffering. But in order to best help people, we shine a light on the healing aspect, because healing is what we're all after. And it's an ever evolving process that never really ends, because we go through these phases and cycles where maybe things are really bad right now, and in 5 years they'll have struggles, but we'll have overcome these massive things that we're juggling right now. And I think it's so important that those stories get told. So please reach out and give me some feedback on that, and I would greatly appreciate it, everyone. And with it being fall, one of the things that I always like to talk about is seasonal adjustments. There are some people who suffer from seasonal depression due to shortening days. The time change in itself can throw you off. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Summer months, everybody's usually pretty happy and loves summer. We're quite active. We're outdoors more often. The days are longer. Um, Getting that sunlight helps to boost our serotonin levels, and that keeps us awake and happy and feeling good. And later on, as the body does what it does, melatonin kicks in and helps us to go to sleep at night. Now, when the days start getting shorter, our serotonin levels, the feel goods, tend to drop a little bit. And when that happens, that causes us to feel moody, maybe anxious. Um, Sometimes it messes up our sleep cycle, especially when you kick in that hour time change that many of us have. Um, and when that happens, that just kind of furthers us down that path. So we wanted to talk about some ways that we can help combat that. And one of the ways that that can be done is by getting at least an hour of natural sunlight a day. Now, if you live in a particularly harsh climate, maybe being outside isn't your thing, but maybe sit next to a window where the sunlight comes in and get some sunlight that way. Or if you're an active person and you still like to be active, bundle up, put a coat on, get out and go for a walk. That fresh air is actually quite nice, and it really makes you feel good from not breathing just the stale air that's in your house, right? So that's going to help. And from the same standpoint, that exercise is going to help. Because we're not as active in the winter, because it's so cold in some areas, we really need to kick up our exercise a notch in other ways for indoor workouts so that we can continue to keep that serotonin up, keep keep everything flowing and the heart pumping and everything moving around so we feel good. Uh, you can also use light therapy. Light therapy is not really something that I've ever tried because typically when I have to work, I just have to work. And so if I'm up, I'm up. And my schedule doesn't really change much. So I'm thankful for that. But there is lights out there that mimic sunlight, and they're relatively inexpensive. And you can use those to just put sun on your face for a little bit, essentially with this light. You're just putting a light on your face, but it'll mimic the same thing. And that helps for many people. Other things that can help is if your schedule allows it, get that sunlight in, that hour of sunlight as soon as the sun is up, because earlier in the day your body is more susceptible to the sunlight and how it affects your serotonin levels, which is really going to help you to enhance your mood earlier on. Because one of the side effects about the less sunlight that we get this time of year is that it throws off how our body uses serotonin and melatonin. So the serotonin wakes us up, melatonin helps us sleep, winds us down. So because it gets darker earlier and the days are shorter, it tends to throw off how that production and use happens. And some of the things that happen because of that is that our bodies may make us crave more sugary things that are simple sugars. So not necessarily, you may not even really crave like fruit. You just might want like the cookies or the candy. And the reason is because your body basically like tricks you into thinking that that's like carbs and other complex things that will actually break down, help you, and really kind of makes you sleepy because your body's saying like, hey, I'm tired. And so you're just kind of fueling the sleep. So it's just some things to think about, like how we treat ourselves in the winter months and in the fall months and even in the spring with our diet, our exercise, the amount of sunlight we get, and just being aware that it can affect our moods. And some people maybe go through it, probably a lot more people do than they realize, and they just don't even know that they're having issues because of the shorter days. And as we get into that type of thing, let's discuss the holidays because those are right around the corner. Now, holidays can be stressful times. And for me, there were certainly times in my life where holidays were very, very stressful because I was loaded full of anxiety. I frankly didn't want to do anything. I didn't want any more to put on my plate because I was already overloaded and overwhelmed. So when you're approaching these holidays, guys, it's really important to pace yourself out and prepare yourself mentally, so you don't get overloaded, you don't get overwhelmed. Make sure to take some time for you that you can just check out for a little while every day and do the things that you need to do to fill your cup and to make you feel whole so that you can be available to participate in holidays, because these times are often lots going on. There's lots of housework, lots of decorations, lots of people coming and going, guests, everything, right? We all know what it is. So by giving ourselves a little bit more time to prepare and to fill our own cup, that allows us to handle those stressful times in the holiday. And a lot of it we already talked about with the dealing with the light changes with the shorter days. Some other things to take into account with the holidays is there's sometimes family members that stress us out. It's not that we don't love them, they're just maybe not your favorite family person. Whatever the situation is, it really doesn't matter. But it's really so important that we just take each family event and occasion going on with the level of care that gives us the ability to be at peace, right? For me, I don't drink during holiday events usually. It's pretty rare because a lot of times that can get out of hand with some people. So if I'm clear headed, it's not going to get out of hand for me. And it allows me to focus on what really matters. And because I'd rather focus on what really matters, be my kids, my family, it makes it easier for me to cope by not drinking. Where I very much used to think that, well, it's the holidays, let's just drink. And I had some family members that were very much that way as well. In reality, they're all just drinking to try to not make a situation feel awkward and appears on the surface to be more fun, but really it's not. So I would encourage that to just abstain from alcohol if possible and maintain that clear head. And in that, if you're feeling overwhelmed, delegate some duties out. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to cook all the food and do all the dishes and host everything at your house. It can be broken up. You can have each person, each family member that comes bring a side dish and maybe you just do the main course. Or even think outside the box when it comes to these holidays. And does it have to be a meal that you cook all day for? Or can you just do something different that's your own tradition? Myself, I could really care less to have turkey on Thanksgiving. I would just prefer to have just some fun meal and whatever that is. And it doesn't always happen. It has in the past. And those are some of the most memorable holidays because it's just something different. It's easy. Some of the most simple meals make for the most fun because you're able to spend more time together, enjoying each other's company versus stressing about everything being perfect. Um, and also, if you're feeling overwhelmed in it, allow yourself to remove yourself from that situation if need be for a little bit. Um, Perhaps you need to just get out of the house for a few minutes and duck out. Give yourself that, but don't abandon everybody and just let someone know that, like, hey, I just need to step outside for a few minutes. I'll be back. And that allows you to just reground, collect yourself, and be ready to go back in and enjoy the times with family. I also think that it's important during the winter months, as we go through these times, that we may to recognize that we may have to find new ways to work on ourselves to basically put in that self-care, that level of love that we need to give ourselves so that we can thrive in the winter months. Because maybe what you do in the summer months is not as easy to do in the winter months. So think about some other alternatives to some of those things if you can't get them done in the winter. Um, I also would say that it is important to um, take time in between the holidays to really unwind and fill your cup because it happens quick. I mean, Halloween's almost upon us, and that is kind of just the start of things. And it's the easy one to get through for me. Then you get into Thanksgiving and Christmas, and Christmas kind of seems to be the big one, and New Year's kind of tapers it all off, and then you're just hoping to glide through the rest of winter. So take time in between all those events to fill your cup and to relax a little bit and to not stress yourself out, to overwork yourself or any of those things. Um, that was really all I wanted to touch on this week. I know this is a super short episode. I'm thankful for you guys that continue to watch and share this podcast, and I hope that you continue to do so. And again, please leave me your feedback and let me know what you think about the podcast, what you would like to see in the podcast moving forward. And certainly, if you feel like you would like to share your story, I would love to allow you the platform, to give you space on this platform to share your story. I want to keep helping as many people as possible. And while I am changing how I do that with my day to day life and transitioning how I help people, and will continue to announce some things that will be coming in the next year, I believe, to really help some guys that need the change of pace in their life, maybe some first responders and that sort of thing that are looking for another outlet to thrive in. Um, I want you all to be a part of that. And I want this to be a family of people that knows that they can reach out to anybody that's been on this podcast. They can always reach out to me and get the help you need. Happy to always help set you up with the right people for the right treatments that you need. If you're new to the podcast, know that one of the things that I offer to just do, if you're kind of in that space where you know you need to get some help and some treatment, but you're unsure of where to go or how to start, reach out to me. And what I'll do is we will have a either just a phone call or we can do a Zoom call, and we will talk about different treatment options for whatever it is that you're struggling with and set up a plan that works for you. And then I will be there to help you guide you through the process moving forward. And that's just something I do because when I went through this process, I felt very alone and I felt like I had to navigate that by myself. And that was really difficult for me at the time. It's not impossible, but I just have felt like I can make it easier on those that are dealing with it now. So that's still available. I'm always happy to help. If you're interested in that, reach out to me. You can always shoot me an email at freeingyourmindpodcast@gmail.com. Or the best ways to get a hold of me are on Instagram and Facebook. Dan R. Dukeman on Instagram and Daniel Dukeman on Facebook. And I am pretty responsive. I usually get back to you within a couple hours. And once I'm working with you, you'll have my phone number and it'll be instant communication. So if you guys need anything moving forward, happy to help you in any way that I can. I'm grateful for you guys for tuning in. Have a great week, and we'll see you guys next week on Free Your Mind podcast. Love you all. God bless.